Welcome to the 5-Minute Biographies podcast, where every week we tell you interesting things about interesting people in about 5 minutes. And now here is your host, Wayne Armstrong.
Hi, I'm Wayne Armstrong. Welcome to the 5-Minute Biographies podcast, episode 25, Hernando Cortes. Hernando Cortes, the famous, or perhaps more accurately, infamous explorer, was born in 1485 in Medellin in Spain. The son of an upper-class yet not very wealthy family, he began life as a skinny, sickly problem child. By the age of 14, his parents had shipped him off to the University of Salamanca to study law. Instead of embracing the education he was offered, he didn't put in the effort, and eventually gave up to go back home. For a while he acted like any other disgruntled teenager would. He lazed around the family home and did as little as possible. Soon he discovered a new interest. The discovery of the New World was on the lips of everyone around him at the time, and Cortés began to realise that this was what he wanted to do. Excited about a new adventure, he signed up to join an expedition, and at the age of 19 he finally set sail on an epic journey. He spent his time working with the military, keeping native uprisings under control. He also had an affinity towards the ladies, and was known to challenge many a man to a duel, to decide who would win the girl over. No one really knows how well he did in these duels, but it was certainly good practice for what lay ahead. Over the next few years, Cortés took part in conquests of Cuba and Hispaniola, with Diego Velázquez. As a result of his involvement, he gained land and native slaves, and became an important man in Cuba. In 1518 he convinced Velázquez, who had then become governor, to allow him to command an expedition to Mexico. This was the adventure that Cortés had always dreamed of. The New World had recently been discovered by Europeans, and the rumours were swirling about the immense wealth that could be found there. Because he didn't fully trust Cortés, Velázquez decided to cancel the expedition, but that didn't stop Cortés. Instead of obeying orders, he gathered 11 ships and 500 men and set sail anyway. The expedition reached the Mexican coast in 1519, and Cortés quickly gained the trust of some of the native people, whom he convinced to fight against the other natives. He was bent on conquering Mexico, and the Aztec Empire was his first target. He raided the Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan and took the ruler, Montezuma II, hostage. His escapades were cut short when he fled the city to avoid being caught by Spanish troops that were sent to arrest him for disobeying the orders Velázquez had given him. As brave as he was, he deeply feared being taken back to Spain under such shameful circumstances. In his absence, a rebellion had begun in Tenochtitlan. Despite fighting feverishly to overcome the odds, Cortés and his army were driven out by the Aztecs. Undaunted, Cortés returned to the city in 1521 and eventually succeeded in defeating the Aztecs. As a reward for his accomplishments, King Charles I of Spain appointed him the governor of what they now called New Spain the following year. Even with the outward appearance of success, Cortés faced many more challenges, particularly to his authority and position. In 1524 he was forced to travel to Honduras to fight a rebellion against him, which took him away from his Mexican power centre. When he finally returned, he had been ousted from his governor's position, lost all of his power, and was left with nothing. He returned to Spain a broken man, determined to plead his case to the king. It did him no good at all. He was never reappointed as governor. Cortés finally returned to New Spain in 1530, where he made every attempt to prove his innocence in the face of accusations that he tried to poison the new leadership. He did everything that he possibly could to re-establish his position, but to no avail. Eventually he moved to Cuernavaca, where he built a beautiful palace that he called home. He didn't just sit back and relax, though. He continued to explore the Pacific coast and Baja California, seeking fame and fortune. Unfortunately for him, these explorations were not nearly as successful as his earlier exploits. Dejected, and by this time in his 50s, Cortés returned to Spain, where he continued to fight to regain his power. He was almost entirely discounted by most, but did eventually win the emperor over and was allowed to fight against Algiers. It didn't turn out quite as expected. In fact, Cortés nearly drowned during one battle. He gave in and returned to Spain to again face the music. It was all too much to bear, and again he planned to leave it all behind and return to his beloved Mexico for an easy life of retirement. Unfortunately for him, he never left Spain again. On December 2nd, 1547, Cortés died a painful death due to the effects of pleurisy, a lung disease. He will always be known for his adventurous spirit and perhaps more so for his unethical behaviour, but without Cortés and others like him, our world would not be what it is today. I hope you enjoyed that episode of 5 Minute Biographies. If you'd like to see a transcript of the show, head on over to the 5 Minute Biographies website at www.5minutebiographies.com/episode 25. If you'd like to make a suggestion for a future biography, then please use the Suggest a Biography form on the site. If you get a spare few minutes, it would be really great if you could leave me an honest review on iTunes, and if you don't want to miss any future episodes, why not subscribe while you're there? You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter. Finally, why not check out our other podcast, 5 Minute History, which you can find on iTunes and at 5minutehistory.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to the 5 Minute Biographies podcast at www.5minutebiographies.com.